Welcome to a road trip to the Petroleum Museum. In this journey to the museum, we'll go to the oil patch. We'll take a futuristic trip in a spaceship, seeking out new reserves. We'll see the mineral gallery, artwork, and race cars. It's all a part of the great, fabulous Petroleum Museum in Midland, Texas. We spent 2 weeks in the Midland and Odessa Texas area and an additional week in the Hobbs and Lovington area of New Mexico. These towns are a part of the vast oil fields of the Permian Basin, where oil is king, where hard work is rewarded, and the barren desert land riddled with oil wells is celebrated. In this video, let's tour the Petroleum Museum located on I-20 in Midland, Texas. Travel across America with me. As we pulled into the parking lot, it was surprisingly full. We found out that a conference was being held at the museum, but this would not affect our visit, but just make parking tighter. We first walked out to the Santa Rita wooden oil derrick. The original Santa Rita No. 2 rig was built in 1923 at Texon, about 70 miles southeast of Midland. After completion of the well, the rig was modified to pump oil rather than drill. Electric power was substituted for steam, and in 1938, the original wooden derrick was replaced by a metal one. Still, the heavy foundation sills, the band wheel, the walking beam assembly, most of the framing and other original portions of the rig remained when the Marathon Oil Company donated it to the museum in 1975. At that time, the rig was photographed, dismantled, and moved to the museum site. The rig, now faithfully restored to its 1923 appearance, is a lasting reminder of the hundreds of cable tool rigs that once were used throughout the United States. Today, only a few such antique rigs remain, sentinels from the pioneering days of the petroleum industry. The oil delivery wagon was utilized in the late 1800s and early 1900s to deliver petroleum products to customers during the early years of the Industrial Revolution. Commercial customers like wagon yards and industrial factories would buy heavy oils and grease. Residential customers would buy kerosene for lanterns. The automobile later changed the refining focus to a byproduct once discarded called gasoline. We then walked to see other outdoor equipment. Take the time to read the signs to get a deeper understanding of the progression in oil industry rig development. Walking toward the museum structure, let me read the timeline signage. 400 BC, first oil well dug. 1013, the first natural gas well drilled. 1859, America's first commercially productive oil well. And in 1870, John D. Rockefeller and Associates formed the first integrated oil company. In 1885, geologist Israel White describes the anticline theory for oil exploration. And in 1901, the famous spindle top was the first application of rotary drilling. In 1902, Henry Ford begins manufacturing automobiles. And in 1904, the discovery of oil in Iran opens Middle East production. 1923, the discovery well of the Big Lake field, the Santa Rita No. 1, comes in. And in 1947, hydraulic fracturing first used to stimulate oil production. And in 1951, electricity first generated from atomic power. And in 1954, the solar cell was invented. In 1987, the first commercial wind farm was started, and in 1997, Mitchell Energy discovers how to fracture shale. In 2000, horizontal drilling opens up Bakken Shale Reserve, largest oil discovery in 40 years, and the U.S. becomes the world's largest natural gas producer. Let's walk around these pump jacks. We will be going to the other incredible outdoor exhibits after scoping out all the exhibits inside the building. Speaking of, let's go inside. They are open daily, and after paying the entrance fee, we headed to the intriguing exhibits. Museum lovers will be pleased. Those who don't enjoy museums all that much will truly enjoy the displays. In this video, I am just going to hit the highlights. One of those highlights is my New Mexican friends. Close your ears for a second. Texas is the birthplace of the modern oil industry. One could spend 30 minutes just studying this map and seeing the location of the historic fields across Texas. The displays expose the changing face of the oil industry through the decades. As you stroll through the 1920s era Boomtown, learn about the birth of the petroleum industry in the Permian Basin, as presented in the well-thought-out displays of the Land Office and General Store. As we entered this area, the colorful neon displays were eye-catching and very nostalgic. This room celebrates the growth of America's petroleum industry with icons like Midland's own Pegasus, drill bits, and beautifully restored gas pumps from this era. I grew up with a family being employed in the oil industry from the 1940s into the 1980s. My dad was in charge of the shipping department for Hughes Tool Company. My dad began his employment at Hughes after graduating from high school and leaving for a brief time to go to boot camp before the end of World War II. He worked for over 40 years, working his way up the ladder with this critical oil industry supplier. I remember him having to go to work on weekends and at nights often when oil fields called, with an emergency needing a rock bit shipped by ground truck pronto. My stepdad was a geophysicist for Texaco, working for the large oil company in many levels, from starting in the oil fields to one of their top geophysicists, and living in all points between Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and Midland, Texas, to Houston during his long career. How about this phone? You might want to watch my recent video where I take you to George W. Bush childhood home in Midland, see the Bush family phone number and name in the city phone book. Have you subscribed yet? If not, please subscribe. Back to the museum. In the Peaks and Prophecies area, discover the radical and often amusing forecast for the petroleum industry over the years. What came true and what didn't. Follow the interactive timeline with captivating headlines in magazines and famous quotes about this historic and crucial worldwide industry. Some of these quotes make you see that you can't believe everything that you hear about the petroleum industry. Only 550 billion barrels of oil remain in the earth. We will run out by 1990. As we walked into another area, we found these unusual interactive displays in the drilling and seismic section of the museum. There were more displays of rock bits, which obviously caught my attention. We then headed back to take a flight on the Petro Trekker to search out some new reserves. We joined the captain and his crew on a futuristic ride exploring for oil and natural gas resources in the far corners of the earth, using out-of-this-world technology.
Engage stabilizers.
Stabilizers engaged.
Enable hover mode. Page to end speed.
Laser activated.
Our lasers can penetrate rock many times faster than conventional drills. Release the nanos. The C-Slider. Disengage stabilizer.
Stabilizers disengaged.
Pilot, take us home.
Roger that.
Crew, thank you for your help today, and congratulations on completion of this successful mission that was so important for Midland and Odessa. With your help, we discovered and planned 2 new fields that will ensure oil and gas will flow for years to come. Great job.
Not sure about that part. Catch the fun every 15 minutes. This is a fun diversion for all ages. There is another area designed for younger kids called Energy City, and we found this solar bakery for those seeking an alternative way to bake bread. And there were, of course, more displays on refining and distribution. There is so much to learn and explore here, but I can't wait to show you the mineral gallery and the outdoor displays, 2 of my favorite areas. Do you have any idea how many products that you use that are connected in some way to the petroleum industry? And we haven't even talked about offshore oil or refining. There's just too much to cover. Why wait? Visit this great museum yourself. You can learn about the oil and gas industry and that it's divided into 3 major sectors: upstream, midstream, and downstream. And that looks like in the field, in the refinery, and in use. As we continued through this maze of information, there was a section on the Chaparral cars. You can experience these world-famous Chaparral cars in the Chaparral Gallery in the 19,000 square foot transportation wing. This area is for those feeling the need for speed and burning some petroleum in their combustion engine. The varying design of the all-white race cars was exceedingly interesting. Jim Hall designed, built, and tested these innovative racers in Midland. Jim Hall once reflected, "There's nothing like winning a race in a car that you helped build and develop yourself. It's the most exhilarating thing I have ever done." In 1979, Jim Hall and Chaparral Cars introduced the Chaparral 2K IndyCar. For the Indianapolis 500, driver Al Unser qualified the 2K for a front row position. During the race, Unser charged into the lead and stayed there for 104 laps until transmission trouble forced him to retire from the race. The following year, with Johnny Rutherford at the wheel, the 2K won pole position and raced to victory in the Indianapolis 500 and also won the 1980 1980 IndyCar National Championship. Racing fans will thoroughly enjoy these fabulous and unexpected displays. In front of the cars, there are signs making sure that you don't touch them, but there is one car that you can crawl into. I can verify that. It is a tight squeeze. The steering wheel is removable so that you can slide into the driver's seat. As we continue to weave through the seemingly endless displays, we pass through the Abel Family Gallery. The cultural history of the Permian Basin is beautifully depicted by award-winning artist Tom Lovell. Lovell captures cowboys and Indians, people and landscapes in this well-done gallery. A rock hound at heart, I found the Mineral Gallery enchanting. The minerals from around the world were gracefully displayed, although the lighting on the protective glass was a challenge for me to show you these amazing rocks. Another reason for you to go to visit this museum in person. The specimens are so captivating. I found it hard to stop gawking at the intricacy and design of them. Please leave a comment telling me what has charmed you the most so far. Remember, we still have to go outside to see more displays in the oil patch. The Permian Basin Petroleum Museum opened in 1975 and is one of the largest in the country, dedicated to the petroleum industry and its pioneers. Outside the doors of the Abel Family Gallery and the Mineral Gallery, you will encounter the Petroleum Hall of Fame, which recognizes selected individuals who have made remarkable contributions to the Permian Basin and the petroleum industry. Many of these people changed the course of history as they pursued their dreams in this black gold region. If you turn right, you will find the gift shop and exit. But don't leave yet. We need to turn left to go out to the oil patch. The outdoor displays capture the history of the mechanics and engineering through a vast collection of antique equipment. One-of-a-kind exhibits in the oil patch include the Central Power Unit, the 1920s rotary rig, National No. 3, the triple mast rig, which is capable of drilling to depths over 14,000 feet. This modern rotary rig cost $4 million in 1980. As I've said in previous videos, the oil just doesn't magically appear at your local pumps. Only a few rigs like the Santa Rita No. 2, like we saw at the parking lot, remain as sentinels from the pioneering days of the petroleum industry. We had a blast exploring the well-thought-out museum that was updated in 2016. Be sure to check their website below to learn more. I know you have enjoyed your walk with me through this fascinating museum. If you want to buy us a coffee or some fuel for our journeys, our Cash App is $spgdmg. Moccasin boots on the ground on Classic Road Trip. Tell a friend about my channel and please subscribe, and for sure, leave me a comment. May I recommend my museum playlist for more videos on truly incomparable and unusual museums across this great nation.